Hey, how's it going? So today I wanted to briefly go over what my tire setup is going to be for the Diablo Challenge this Sunday. Today it's Monday and I've been riding with the same setup for a while and everything's fine, it's all good. Usually I ride with Turbo Pro tires, but for the Diablo Challenge this weekend I wanted to switch out for a little bit faster tires and save a few watts going up the hill. So notably, I'm going to be riding the Specialized S-Works turbos, and mostly they're like the same rubber as the Turbo Pros, but they have a higher thread count casing and they roll a little bit faster. A few years ago, Velo News did a rolling resistance test and found that those were the fastest tires out there. Basically, it was like the S-Works Turbo tubeless, followed by the Cottons, followed by the regular S-Works turbos, all within just like 1 or 2 watts of each other. And then I think the GP4000s were like right there behind them, another 1 or 2 watts slower. But then, if you look at the spread, there's like maybe 20 or so tires on the list of tires that they tested. And, some of the tires are like 10, 20, 30 watts slower, which, is potentially a lot of time if you're doing a hill climbing effort, and depending on like how fit you are and how fast you're going and how much you weigh, like that is just an automatic like 1 or 2% waste that you could be looking at if you had a very slow tire versus a very fast tire. So normally I ride the Turbo Pros because they're pretty economical, they roll and grip well, and they're like relatively fast. But to get what Velo News claims is nearly a 10 watt improvement in rolling resistance, I'm going to switch the Turbo Pros out for the S-Works turbos. They cost a few bucks more, but at least for just for right now, the challenge, I figure that's worth it. Just for training, like in the middle of winter, if I'm not racing and I don't care about quite how fast I'm going, because I'm not racing and I'm not going after any Strava KOMs, I would just go ahead and ride Turbo Pros or something a little bit heavier, just to get the miles in and have consistent performance. And since I personally ride with tubes and tire sealant, I don't necessarily always go for like the toughest tires you can get, because I like the way that some of the nicer, like more performance oriented tires roll and grip. But you could definitely go for like an Armadillo or a Gator Skin type tire that's just like as puncture resistant as you can get. Depending on where you're riding and how many punctures you get, regardless of what tire you're riding, you might consider getting tubes with removable valve cores. So I'm going to be riding some lightweight tubes this weekend, and these guys have a removable valve core so that you can take out the core of the valve. So like you can take out this little top piece, and then you can squirt some tire sealant into the tube, and 1.5 ounces of tire sealant in the tube will give you the same flat protective benefits as running tubeless, but you don't have to buy tubeless tires, you don't have to set up your wheels tubeless, and just like a little Stan's bottle like this, you can use the little squirty injector to get some tire sealant in your tubes. And I found that to be very confidence inspiring over the years. For several years now, I pretty much have always had that on my training setup. And then on my race wheels, whether they're tubulars or clinchers, I pretty much always have put tire sealant into my tires if I have any ability to do so. Sometimes if I was riding like team wheels and they set them up for me, I didn't always have that option. But I figure 1 or 2 ounces of extra rotating weight is worth a very high degree of confidence that even if I run over some thorns or something, or pieces of glass, that I'm very unlikely to get a flat. And over the years I've been pretty lucky to get very, very few flats, either in training or in racing. And I think that, given my experience prior to doing that, a lot of that, low incidence of flats was due to the setup that I use. So anyway, I was gonna just set that up and ride it the next few days before the challenge. And, my preparation for the challenge has been a little bit interrupted, and hasn't been quite everything that I was hoping that it would be. So I'm really hoping that I feel good and healthy and can do a very solid effort this weekend. But even if I don't, that's just one step along the way. And if I am feeling good a week or 2 or 3 from now and I feel like maybe going for some fast times on some local climbs, I'll still have those tires on there. The current tires that I have are like getting worn, but they're still good for a little while. So at some point I'll probably throw these back on and wear them out and then keep the turbo, the S-Works turbos for when I want to go fast. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go set it up now. So everything in my current setup is still working perfectly. I just wanted to put faster tires on for this weekend. So I'm gonna save these and go back to them later. But for this weekend, I wanted to go a little bit faster if I could and save a few watts of rolling resistance, which, you know, it's worth it if you're trying to go fast. One thing that comes to mind while doing this is that so many people are really hung up on weight. Over the years, like I've talked to thousands of people at the bike shop looking at bikes and equipment, including tires. And one thing that often comes up, and it seems to be in a lot of people's mind, kind of like an end-all as far as performance is concerned. And people are often really concerned about just how much things weigh. And definitely, all things being equal, lighter is better for bike stuff. For pretty much anything in biking, I can't think of anything that is better when it's heavier. Obviously you can make things too light where they're not like adequately strong or durable or whatever, but that's like not generally something that happens very much. Usually all the best stuff is very well constructed and engineered. So for example, helmets, like you can get a really high-end helmet that's lighter and it still meets the same safety standards and is at least as safe as some cheaper helmets, but it's lighter and better ventilated and more comfortable as a result of trimming some of that weight that the cheaper helmets have. The same with bikes, like high-end bikes can be just as stiff, but they're a little lighter. But when it comes to tires, having something that's lighter but rolls slower is not going to help you out. If it rolls the same and it grips the same, then sure, yeah, lighter is better. But just on its own, I wouldn't care about saving 20 grams on my tires if they roll slower or they don't grip as well and I can't trust them as much cornering. So in this case, I honestly don't even know how much these tires weigh. I know that they're pretty light, but I also know that there are lighter tires out there. But I really don't care because these roll faster, and if I can save, if it costs me an ounce per tire, but I save 5, 10, 20 grams or 20 watts of rolling resistance, that's obviously totally worth it because I care about grip and rolling fast if it comes to performance. Likewise, a lot of things that make bikes more aerodynamic, or wheels more aerodynamic. In the case of wheels, it makes them stiffer, and in the case of frames, it might make them heavier, but it's gonna make them faster a lot of times. So, unless you're looking for like a pure climbing bike for really steep stuff, where you're going, less than 12 or less than 15 miles an hour, then maybe aerodynamics doesn't matter that much. But, for like the Diablo Challenge, for example, some of the fast guys will be going 14, 15, 16 miles an hour average up the climb. And, if you give up a couple ounces of weight on your wheels or your frame and you have a more aerodynamic setup, that's totally worth it. Likewise, I don't really care if my tires are an ounce or two heavier if they're gonna roll faster. So anyway, just a few thoughts on that.